Hello and welcome to the WWE Crown Jewel preview. I'm Michael Sidgwick, joined by Michael Hamflett to discuss everything that's going down on this weekend show. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts. We preview and review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, Dynamite, Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have wrestler interviews on occasion, roundtable discussions, question and answer time, and maybe this week, maybe not, we host a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WhatCulture. Hamflett, these shows stink.
Yep.
It's weird, though, when you sit here and you come to preview a WWE Saudi show, and as much as you try to summon the outrage and the disgust, sports washing works. Yep. It's this insidious process of just making it normalized, a process that is like almost disgustingly, despairingly clever in that it works because there's always something else in this hellscape of a world to feel genuinely outraged. Like, I know that word has been bastardized, which doesn't help this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's hard not... it's hard to summon that old feeling because there's a million other atrocities ongoing and they increase with frequency and they then happen in a different part of the world. It's always worth mentioning that these shows stink, but the fact is they work. This isn't Crown Jewel 2018, this is Crown Jewel 2024, and the more cynical and correct among us would have said, well, in 6 years you won't care. Mm-hmm. So get on with the show. And they've got the wrong reasons, but they're correct.
It was an evil genius that came up with a concept of sports washing, probably somewhere in some office of a public relations firm, a well-paid public relations firm somewhere. And I was thinking about it because, like you, we've no motive to come on here and lie. We're going to do a preview and a review like we always do, coverage ultimately of the show, which again, everybody does, and then is part of, like, in our own tiny ways. I'm hesitant to use the word complicit, but in our own way, like, no, everyone's at this kind of same point in terms of anger levels and all of that. So the best you can do is just kind of remember to have the conversations and then hope that there are, like, sort of similar conversations taking place, even if you choose to watch this. So I'm not going to sit here and judge anybody for watching it, just as I would like to think nobody would sit here for judge us talking about it as a wrestling show. But all of those compromises that say, the kind of the evil genius that came up with this, it's almost to me as if when they were looking at the emotions that humans experience, and ones that can be navigated and ones that can be healed, I guess. Yeah. They knew that anger was an immediate one. Like the feeling of being upset or outraged, it's very immediate, very in the moment. It's something that when with others that also feel angry and upset, that sort of level rises and rises and rises. And they told, whether it be WWE, whether it be boxing, whether it be football, whether it be whatever, all sport that has kind of ultimately come under this sports washing thing, to just say, ride that out, because what will happen is, as you say, the world will keep happening. So there will be distractions, there will be things. It's not to mention people's individual lives, by the way. There will be distractions on a massive scale, let alone your own distractions in everybody's own personal lives. Yeah. They have, what's most ghoulish of all, perhaps, is that they've kind of lent on the human response, I would say, to grief. You know how when you're grieving, the only thing, it's a cliche, but it's true, the only thing that heals it is time. You take time to cope and learn and normalize. And that is the process here, isn't it? Like, initially, you're almost like shocked and disgusted. And then everything gets gradually more diluted and the feeling isn't as harsh anymore. And then the years pass.
You're only capable as a human of processing so much awful information.
And it's like,
and I know that's bad, but it's the truth.
Well, it's when it's good, as I say, like getting over something like grief, it's a triumph of the brain, right? It's a triumph of the way that we're made, that we're able to somehow keep going. Yeah. But this manipulates and abuses that incredible function that we have as human beings to its own gain. Yeah. And I like, by the way, feel free to tune out if this is not your cup of tea, whether you're listening or you're watching us on YouTube, but like, I like these discussions of any kind, any discussion that isn't, we're going to preview the card in a minute, but like any sort of discussion that anyone feels comfortable to have around these shows, I still think is like important and valid and worthwhile, because everyone's going to be at a different stage of coping.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, sports washing works and it doesn't. I'm trying to, it's quite a complicated thing, so I might not be the most sort of coherent listen here, in that I don't watch a WWE show in Saudi Arabia and have Michael Cole talk to me about the progressive cities from which these shows emanate, etc., and think, you know what a great country, or what a great regime, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't do that, but at the same time, you don't, after a while, because it's human nature, have that same indignation. In like another example of it proving effective in removing the idea of this shouldn't be happening, that outrage, if not the embrace of it all, is I distinctly remember, and again, we're talking sports washing and now soccer. We'll get to the wrestling shortly, imminently. The 2018 World Cup was similarly controversial in that it was hosted by Qatar, the regime there obviously not having their own great human rights record, and, you know, the deaths that happened, and making it all happen. I remember they did the opening fixture, and I can't remember who played it. It was Qatar against somebody else. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't like the World Cup. It wasn't, you know.
It was Christmas too.
Yeah, it was Christmas
too. People.
Yeah. So it wasn't like the most glamorous fixture, and it didn't like lift the mood surrounding it, right? And at the start of, I'm going to name the channel, but I think they all did it. At the start of the broadcast I watched, they did a big half-hour to hour-long preview of the games and the permutations and who might win, the favourites. But a lot of the chat centred on, we feel weird being here. Should we be here? What's your thoughts on the sports washing and the controversy surrounding the 2018 World Cup? That was the opening fixture. If you follow football, you'll know what happened in the final. You saw what quite possibly might be the very best game of football ever played. It was like that old cliche of you couldn't write the script like this.
Very applicable to wrestling. It was a WrestleMania main event in terms of all the things that needed to happen and the pieces that fit. Yeah.
Like, the narrative was incredible. The narrative was the person, Lionel Messi, who is widely regarded, not universally because that never happens, but widely regarded as literally the best player ever. You couldn't get the ball off him. He was tiny, low center of gravity, the best dribbler ever. You couldn't get the ball off him. And he had this absolutely absurd football brain and the technical ability to execute these passes that only he could see. And bear in mind, he was a better goal scorer than a deliverer. These ridiculous passes that nobody else could see, and he could just weigh them perfectly so they were just in the paths of his players. And he was like, well, he's about as short as me, 5'7". Maybe 5'6", but 5'7" sounds a little bit better. And you're thinking he's got all of these gifts, but he's quite small. Maybe you could hack him down. No, you couldn't get near him. You couldn't get near him. And you think, is there literally anything he can't do? He's short. He can't really head the ball that well. But he could, because he's just, his vision and his IQ is so perfect that he just knew exactly when to go. There wasn't even a big brute of a centre-half who could even challenge him. And you're thinking, is there anything he can't do? Well, he's short. He's tenacious, but he's not really strong. You can't have that hard of a shot. It's ridiculous how hard he could kick a ball. He's the biggest genius in all of football in terms of every attribute, physical, intelligence, just the best. The one thing he hadn't done I was 2022, not 2018, sorry.
Yes.
2022. The one thing he hadn't done, which Diego Maradona and Pele, who were also in the very best of all time conversations, had done, is won a World Cup. He'd won. This is a different conversation entirely. I think the Champions League's probably more prestigious nowadays than the World Cup. It's certainly it's harder, I think, to win. It's the standard of football's better. But regardless, the World Cup is still the ultimate thing that all aspiring footballers dream of.
Because you're leading your country out rather than being necessarily surrounded by the best of your teammates. It's the best of your whole nation.
It's more of a pure thing. People like it more, and it just endured as the ultimate prize in football. Messi hadn't won it 2022. In the most dramatic game ever against France, who were kind of the favourites, and who also had Kylian Mbappe, who's like the next in that line of the best players ever, and he'd already won a World Cup, so he had the psychological advantage, because Argentina had failed a few times, so the more failures you have, the more it builds up mentally. Argentina go 2-0 up, and I can't remember the exact who scored when. It ends up 3-3 after extra time. Messi does some absolutely wonderful build-up play to Argentina's second goal or first goal. He's culpable for France's equaliser, I think. He just falls over, and you're thinking, this is ridiculous. His legacy has been cemented and eroded in the space of one game. Yeah. And then he scores in extra time, I think. I'll get the details wrong. It doesn't really matter. And then he scores a penalty in the winning shootout, and it's the ultimate football story. And by the time the ultimate story happens, no one talks about the sports washing.
Yeah.
No one talks about it at all. And now, even though people died in the making of the stadiums in Qatar, if they hold it there again, there'll be no outrage. People will say, oh, well, last final was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. They'll call for sort of like, they'll look for callbacks. They'll look for like legacy moments that remind you of the first time it was in Qatar or something like that. Yeah. Which I guess goes against...
And if it happens in another... One more thing, sorry. If it happens in another, like, brutal regime, like, people just go, Qatar was great though, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's and the reality now, of course, we saw with UFC celebrating Riyadh season in the Sphere rather than actually even going to Saudi Arabia. Most of the big boxing takes place just out there. WWE obviously do the two events. I think it's reached the point now where it's more about being collaborative with the brands rather than necessarily having to even host some things in Saudi Arabia. So the idea of a Saudi Arabian WrestleMania is not just possible, probably inevitable, but then also a WrestleMania or a massive event over Riyadh season taking place anywhere in America, but with the branding that they've like applied to sort of Crown Jewel in line with the sort of Saudi Arabian Sports Authority. It just, all of this seems inevitable. And I think not to sort of look for like a cheesy segue to this card, but I do think it's a relevant point of discussion. Right before we came in the office, like you flag things up now when they're kind of anomalies. And I sent you the card and you're like, 7 matches on this thing. Even that in and of itself is like, it sounds petty this, but like Triple H deviating from a formula he clearly backs to the hilt to support his booking. There's a deviation from that. There are 2 matches that I don't imagine he would have booked unless he felt obliged to because he was presented with these monstrosity belts. And, you know, it's not me like waving away him as this amazing. I'm saying like, this isn't him following the path of these B shows, which is what Crown Jewel would traditionally be.
Oh, he's conflating them, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is conflating Crown Jewel with a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
With this little neat trick.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Crown Jewel is being elevated from the regular B shows by having these extra prizes and the extra matches, and it's obviously going to be in a stadium setting as these Saudi Arabia shows do. So every element of it feels, we're going to talk about his card, and I think it's a half decent card, but you like, as we've tried to sort of talk about sports washing as we always do, you also then can acknowledge the many ways in which that happens, and I would say strategically it's happening in the sort of layout of this card. And like to that point, you could argue there's kind of 2 main events here. So we'll go to the one that was announced on Raw, thus spoiling what's going to happen on tonight's SmackDown.
So you might want to skip if you've stomached our...
Yeah. I won't say what's going to happen on SmackDown. Needless to say, I was devastated it was taped, but I'm going to tune in anyway because I'm excited to see it. But the graphic at least told us. And I guess it was to service where Sami Zayn's going to sit in all of this. So I guess there was a storyline point to it. But Roman Reigns, Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso back together as a 3. For the first time, we'll take on 3 of the bloodline out of Solo, Jacob, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. There's going to be, as they always are now, an interesting political battle about what goes on last.
Yeah.
With the match that we're going to preview later in this preview. But if it is to be this, you wouldn't be surprised. It is massive. It's good broken because you're giving fans an awful lot here and simultaneously giving them nothing.
Yes.
It's pretty good matchmaking as far as a first run of this goes. It's not even, it's 3-on-3. It's not even 4-on-4, which is what War Games is going to be.
Yeah.
And you still haven't delivered a singles match out of the big names.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so hard to preview this if people don't want to be spoiled on SmackDown. What do I do?
The baby faces are...
Wait there, spoiler.
They're unified enough to
Yeah.
take on the Bloodline as heels.
Yeah. Even if, just skip 5 minutes if you don't want to know a thing about SmackDown. I only just saw the odd image and heard the odd thing. I don't know exactly what goes down on that SmackDown segment. Even if it's like we're pretty much back together, and again, I'm not entirely sure how it all plays out. The whole idea is you could still, if you're in that sort of early reconciliation phase, doesn't magically make, the friendships and the brotherhood and the family bonds just stronger than ever straight away. You
Jay said that to Jimmy on Raw.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jay said that to Jimmy. It's like, yeah, we hugged, but I haven't really forgotten, and it's a slow process. Didn't say all those words. It wasn't quite as much exposition. There was still some. All I'm saying is they could still use that sort of lingering tension. And, when there's such a big, profound disagreement with someone, it always gets brought back up at some point. You know what I mean? You're married. You get it. Huh?
All right, guys?
You get it.
Our married viewers out there? Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could play with that as a dramatic device.
Or Receitskis.
Yeah.
They get kept. Yeah.
You could always play with that as a dramatic device. There's which one's... It's Solo. It's not... It's Tonga Loa doing nothing on the outside, basically.
I don't know. Because it's funny when he wrestles.
Is Jacob Fatu in this match?
He could be. The Bloodline have done this before where they don't reveal who it's going to be until the night of.
God.
It's a heel tactic. They've done it previously. I think they will go with Jacob and the Gorillas of Destiny, and Solo will patrol the arena floor. I think he's quite enjoying now being a bit of a clown tribal chief. And I could see him doing the Roman bollocks match on the floor.
They're doing the Roman match. I mean, they could pin Jimmy or Tonga or Tama here. They could pin anyone.
Jimmy's getting pinned, I think. The heels need that going into War Games, don't they?
Yeah, so they need that. Maybe Solo could be in the match to pin him.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. Like, I like him a bit more now that he himself and Paul Levesque have probably realized no one takes him seriously as a Roman. No one even, this is the bad thing about Solo Sikoa, no one takes him seriously even as a pretender to the throne.
No.
But now they've discovered he's got a bit of patter, he's got a bit of mischief in him, he's got a decent bit of delivery. Be this person, Solo. Nonetheless, if he's going to do the Roman singles match and you expect it has to happen at some point, even on a Rumble undercard, Saturday Night Live, Saturday
night's main event,
not Saturday Night Live. Jesus Christ, that's equally poor patter from all the reviews I hear over the last however many years. Look, this match is going to be 15 minutes of stalling. I've got a feeling the referee's going to not emerge from it unscathed.
I think you might be right. I think the last 3.5 minutes could be hot as balls, even if the rest of it is dead-ass boring. That's
correct.
Typically a formula.
Yeah, correct. That's the psychology, is they make the audience care about the finish by making the beginning so drab and so dull that anything subsequent to that absolutely drab first and second acts, that the third... It's like, oh, God, this is great.
Do you know what I'd quite like here? I would like
a bombastic, all-action, 15-minute tag. Yes, please.
Yes, but we're not going to get that. We're going to get
25 minutes.
Story. What I would like
storytelling.
The story, because rather than a lot of these Bloodline matches, I love the endings, but I will never sit here and say that the majority of it is good. It's not. But I am an ends justifies the means person with these Bloodline matches, because I've gone nuts for these finales and sat there bored waiting for it to get going. They have an opportunity here to actually do a bit of story, because Jey Uso has become a legitimate main eventer and Jimmy hasn't, but he is now Jimmy Uso. They're not, that Jey alluded to that on, now I want to see the tag team coming back together in ring. I would like a bit of Uso magic. But it's not perfect, but it's coming back. I want to see them working. Roman's a different beast entirely, especially with Jey. But the Usos are back. Yeah. And that's an event. And they're one of, if not WWE's all-time tag team at this point. They've got the records for it. And I just think that's an opportunity. Yeah. Because, let's be honest, that's also in-ring where they're best. So getting to see them, this is a weird comparison because I'm not saying one and one is like the other because it's not. But like there was something really like sort of electrifying and nostalgic about that night in 2005 when the Rockers came back together against La Resistance. I'm not saying Jay or Shawn Michaels. I'm simply saying, oh, well, they have gone on different paths, but they still do the tag team stuff.
Yeah.
Magic to that. I kind of want to see that sort of, and then they still get beat, but
Jimmy takes the pin.
I think he does. We'll come back to the main events that are going to be for the Crown Jewel Championships in a little bit, because I want to talk about something that is linked to this Bloodline story and something you were very complimentary of, not just for how it's linked to the Bloodline, but for how they set it up on last week's SmackDown. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. You've got a hell of a pitch for this and how this should play out.
Yes, this needs to be... I love the idea of Paul Levesque building up Kevin Owens, especially considering Kevin Owens has been part of the WWE furniture for as many years as he has. I love the idea of him talking up Kevin Owens as if he's this like sort of distant mystical threat on the horizon who's like closing in on Randy Orton's world. It just makes him seem like this killer, this doom that's going to get brought upon Randy Orton. You can only pay off that feeling that was built brilliantly on SmackDown last week if Kevin Owens kills him. And I need to see the pop-up powerbomb on the apron.
Stretcher job?
Potentially. I want to see Randy Orton sell that back. And that, if you can do nothing else nowadays, he can really, really sell. He's great against Gunther. It's the last Saudi show that I got a little bit of enjoyment out of because this process actually works. His selling was really, really masterful in that. It's weird. These shows have got the most fireworks, these absolutely incredibly lavish production setups. They don't really lend themselves to big proper heat angles. It's more about bombast and spectacle, and you know, it might be hard to do something really sort of like affecting in this context. So they've got a challenge on their hands, but the idea is if you want Kevin Owens to have that match with as a heel with Cody Rhodes and think he's winning that title, he needs to obliterate in very ugly fashion Randy Orton. I would have the referee call it off because Randy Orton cannot continue.
We
not being too Polly Ray about it.
We referenced the match almost 10 years ago, not just for the powerbomb and the thing, but how he won the title from Sami Zayn of all people, also tied to this the exact same way, beaten to the point where it was just almost like a sympathetic stoppage. Please stop it.
Please stop.
Yeah, could do with that. And Triple H booked that himself so that he knows that Kevin Owens, he's kind of referenced him in the promo. And as you say, Owens and Cody Rhodes is to come down the line. Randy Orton has been like eyeballing / leaving a hand lingering on that belt. This almost delays that for you to do the Owens thing with Randy Orton still in your back pocket, doesn't it, as well, which is quite nice. Cody rushing to the aid of Randy at some point down the line, only for Randy to then turn on him when that time comes. Is quite
the way
impressive.
this is all going, they could do the Cody Randy stuff after WrestleMania next year.
Does feel like there's still time for it, doesn't it? Another one that sort of was a bolt out the blue when the program started, and then it's very much been about preservation of the characters in the meantime. And really like a big deal at this point because he's not wrestled a lot in 2024. Seth freaking Rollins versus Bronson Reed. Every week, it feels like, as a fan of this product, again, Crown Jewel notwithstanding, but as a fan of WWE, I always feel like I'm waiting for the week where I don't care about Bronson Reed anymore, and that sounds cruel and unfair because it isn't rewarding good creative and fantastic performance, is it? But that's where there was so much of Bronson Reed that felt inessential that I'm still almost like recovering from the shockwave of how fantastic this mini run has been. And I say that because I have significant worries about this match because Braun Strowman never needed to be a straight up singles match. The Seth Rollins segments have never needed to be straight up segments. This kind of has to be a straight up match. Yeah. And what then? Like, are we?
I'm sure a table will get broken.
I'm sure it will, but then are we not rolling all the way back to the problem with Bronson Reed, which is just when it's normal, it's too normal.
He's going to have to go bell to bell at some point, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's going to have to go bell to bell without the bells and whistles.
Very nice. That's very good.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to prove that he is a wrestler of substance because that which he excels has got a limited... If you're like, not Seth Rollins, he's not good enough. Hiroshi Tanahashi can go in that wrestling ring and did for 15 years and it was just glorious every single time because he had such substance. Like, Bronson Reed is not a wrestler with substance so far. It's about time that just got him in there in a match, in a normal match, it's like, can your aura carry over? Because I know Vader battered bloody Cactus Jack from pillar to post, but he had matches where he just basically contained to the ring and he was still a monster.
Yeah.
And he didn't, like, Vader didn't need plunder. Vader didn't need... That's who they're telling you that Bronson Reed is, that sort of mold. Vader could just go in the ring and just do it and be a monster with his own weapon. That was his body and his strength and his power and his aura. Whenever I think, oh, it's Bronson Reed getting really good, and you think, no, it's just kind of fun Sugar Rush stuff. Maybe they could do these backstage segments for 3 years and it'll still be fine. I don't know.
They dragged out the Braun Strowman ones for a long time, and it kept. Like it did sort of keep her right. But Seth Rollins will. It's funny you mentioned about how typically these shows don't lean on heat, proper heavy heat, as with the Orton Owens match. What they do, like the fans, and we try and clarify, like, we're not telling people in Saudi Arabia they're not going to have a nice time at a wrestling show when we're talking about like the nature of these events, but they are extremely devoted and excited fans in these buildings. They are receptive, especially when they know they're getting good shows and the card is being taken seriously. Whilst you can't get heat, you can get big pantomime babyface stuff. And Seth Rollins will kind of fancy this challenge, won't he?
Yeah.
He's got that ego, and I think that's a good thing about Seth Rollins. He's got that ego that he considers himself like a modern-day WWE general. And he will see Bronson Reed, and he will understand what the kind of thing we're on about and see, right, now I'm going to help you. I'm going to help us pay this off together in it. Because he knows that if this is a great night for Bronson Reed, a lot of people are going to be going, man, Seth Rollins, he can be a dark arts maestro. Can he do that here in that setting?
I don't think so. I think this is not going to be very good at all.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a worthwhile discussion. The quality of this match will ultimately be what defines it more than the winner and loser, definitely.
Yeah. I don't care who wins, really, which makes it just seem like it's more... That's fun diversion, enjoying Bronson Reed for a bit, rather than I truly believe in him, strap the rocket to him, he has to beat Seth. I don't really have these convictions. Maybe that's because I don't care, it's the Fed. But I don't think you do either. You're not fuck Bronson Reed, they better not screw this up.
No.
I don't know if that sentiment exists anywhere, really.
I don't want him to. I like he's performing up to the role, and I like seeing wrestlers do that.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to...
Seth Scott Punk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's massive, and that's not Bronson, is it? And do you think he wins? Do you think Seth Rollins wins it?
I think they'll go 50-50. I think Bronson will cheat to win, and I think they'll get another match out of it. This is what wrestling does. Seth will win it conclusively, positioning him nicely for whenever they revisit the CM Punk thing.
We'll go to, another match that again feels very much like impossible to care about the result. And to be honest, in this one, the quality, I'm just not really looking forward to this. I didn't like how we arrived at it. LA Knight defending the United States Championship against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, ostensibly as the payoff for both as a result of the best of 7, though that was unresolved, so they might actually return at that.
They will.
In fact, there's just no way LA Knight is losing his title, is there?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know who wins it. I don't think that SmackDown mid-card scene on the men's side is very good at all. I know Wilborn likes this. I don't. I think it's a weird thing to love. I'm sorry, Wilborn. Like,
I've been talking to an inflatable microphone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. A style of wrestling that is best done in and more well received in AEW. Mm-hmm. A diet, soulless version of it, I guess. And then all for the riches of having a match with LA Knight, who doesn't have good matches. For me, who values more really great in-ring wrestling, this is just not for me. It's just an inferior version of it. So I don't get it. I will say the best I can hope for here, I think LA Knight wins, I don't really care. The best I can hope for is that on LA Knight can just do some good patter and shrugging at them two wrestling each other really hard. They can get out of harm's way and just be funny.
It's the match you're least likely to remember in a year's time when asked to recall the Crown Jewel 2024 card, isn't it? Like, LA Knight's going to be mega over in the building, he always is, and then the match is going to play out exactly as you
then the bell rings
and envisage in your head.
And then the bell rings.
I think his improvements have been overstated, and simultaneously he's gotten good enough. That's where I'm at with LA Knight. I think some people will tell you that he's quietly become this, like,
he hasn't.
Low-key,
I've seen him fall on his ass more than once.
Classic secondary champion. I wouldn't go that far. I think he's wrestled up to the level he needs to be at as this defending champion. I think he retains too. This is interesting because it clearly exists as an effort in representation in place of creative direction. But generous perhaps, but they have at least folded all these 4 teams together across the 3 shows between the general managers to arrive at this match. And with the champions, there's always the sense that the WrestleMania match between the 2 of them lingers, and when do you start teasing that out a bit more? Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defending the tag belts against Damage Control, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, and the Metaphor. There has been a conscious effort, from what I can see, and trying to kind of like read the tea leaves with Triple H, because he just has done a terrible job booking the women, to basically soft launch Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson on the main roster, hence why he's kept them across all the brands, almost as if they become this like in-demand team to Raw and SmackDown. And they've looked competitive against Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, and that's like no mean feat in the fiction of the division. Simultaneously, Chelsea Green continues to earn her spot more than most of the wrestlers on the company. If anything, deserves more than she gets.
I think she's fantastic.
It's the women's division, but her and Piper Niven remain like perpetually over, to the point where they will one day be excellent baby faces, because people just love hating them. Yeah. And the point with those kind of heels is you end up just loving them. And then you've got Damage Control, who have kind of had, for me, like at this point, I will say, like the Sky Pirates unit is the best version of them as a tag team. People got very, very excited when they were shown on screen with Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. That's a dream match in a lot of respects as well. But they've, I think, been damaged by having had shots and lost. You know, they're kind of in this because I think Io Sky especially has accepted to drag the work rate up. I'm sort of interested in looking at this. I don't mind it, truthfully. I just cannot see the champions losing, but I wouldn't mind a bit of development of their eventual breakup.
Yeah. You've done a good job of...
It's not for you, this one, is it?
Here's the thing about this match. I don't care about the women's tag team division. I can't imagine the match being executed very well. I don't care about any of the characters. It's just, they don't get any TV time to flesh them out. It's just there on the card. I think it's an exercise in optics, honestly. I will say that like a dense cluster of action, if not like this really exhilarating, well-worked, multi-person action, as long as it doesn't fall off the rails, and yeah, it really could. Like, it's a bit of a test for Jade Cargill, to be honest. Like, let's be completely frank. If she misses one step of that chain, poof, it really goes awry and quick. And in how many teams are in this? 5?
4.
4. There's way more pieces of that chain. So this could go really, really wrong. Could be a nice little exercise in Schadenfreude. If it's done well, I can't imagine it being this like exhilarating masterclass in these like rapidly moving parts and these intricate sequences. If it's done well enough, the amount of people in that ring could make it this like distraction piece of, I don't know who's going to win. Well, I always get fooled by it.
On that, right?
Like, you know what? Sorry, in a singles match, you can see the gears of like, right, and unless you're Kenny, maybe a Carter, and a select handful of others, you can tell by the rhythm of it. That's not the finish.
Yeah.
You get into it if the work's good and the story's good and you like the characters and the vibe's hot and you like watching it. But you know, if you just took yourself away from it, you know that's not the finish. I got worked by these multi-mans and four-ways all the livelong day.
There's 8 people. That's more than 5.
Exactly. It's the rule. I'd have WWE all like this. If it was up to me.
More multi-person match.
Yeah.
Just a quick one on a possible upset.
Don't know the rhythms.
I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but WWE lately, they kind of like hide this stuff within the shows. They've kind of been suggesting that NXT's got the best women's division in all of wrestling. Genuinely here, is there a chance of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson pulling the upset and taking the belts to NXT?
I have long campaigned for this.
It's exclusive on Tuesdays where they belong, basically, because that division's loaded full of wrestlers.
They've got so many wrestlers there. Some of them have got nothing to do except be portrayed as bickering hens in the locker room, which is a big problem that no one really talks about, other than us, in WWE right now. They, like Paul Levesque, nakedly, transparently does not give a toss about these titles. Would seemingly, if it was up to him, not have them on the show. Feels like it's... We do a bit on our AEW coverage about how the women's division there seems marginalised. Bloody wokes will kick off. You have to do things now. Feels like that, to be completely, you know, have parity across all of our coverage. It feels like the Vector's the same thing. It's like, oh God, I can't get rid of them. What would the people think?
Yeah.
It's not a passion project, this. It's a complete afterthought and filler. Michaels books the women for the love of the game and actually has his staff and himself create storylines. I don't think they're particularly good, but he seems to enjoy telling them. It seems like it's something he's got an emotional investment in. He likes tracking them. He likes building up those talents. It seems like the perfect home.
And like Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson have been relatively well protected as far as call-ups go as well. Yeah. They could do it. Do you think they will? Or champions retain?
Nah, I think the champions will retain. I think the optics are too important, even though if you've got a brain in your head, you can actually see through them.
You can see what's going on. Right, the last two for those, I mean, just hideous belts.
Oh, God, I know.
That have been getting carted town to town.
The design is appropriate, let's just say that.
Yeah. We'll do the one that's had, like, again, to your point about Triple H, much less build, but I think one of the reasons that is because this doesn't feel like a match that in a million years he would go to, and he clearly has directions for both champions that have nothing to do with each other. It's Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. I think he being Triple H, pronoun boy, has stumbled in to a bit of beneficial storytelling as a result of real life events here. So Liv Morgan has recently brought on Raquel Rodriguez as a heater, which is helpful when she's taking on someone like Nia Jax. Even, you know, they're both heels, but someone will have to be kind of situational babyface, and you sense it's more likely to be Nia. Which I know, but it's Liv Morgan, this mega pushed heel on Raw. However, they are coming right off the back of, because of Rhea Ripley's legitimate injury, being credited with like taking her out in a major way. This is like the biggest scalp on Rhea for Liv Morgan since she took her out earlier this year. So they're going to probably lean into that, and they're going to be like, why would I be scared of you? I took out Rhea Ripley, so I can take you out too. In the meantime, Nia Jax has been so aggressive towards Tiffany Stratton about not cashing in on her and cashing in on Liv when the opportunity presents itself, that she's kind of become a bullying figure. And you're starting to see Tiffany Stratton get a bit sick of being under Nia's thumb. So the double knockout spot feels inevitable. Yeah. Tiffany's going to look at the case, that sort of thing. Like, and yet, saying all that, it's still for that big dumb belt. Yeah. So one of them's got to win. One of them's got to beat the other to get this belt. You're going to have a finish here. One of the champions is going to lose. Yeah. And they have at least created a scenario where it's less than ideal for either one to get defeated here.
They're getting left in Saudi, aren't they, these belts?
I would assume so.
Yeah, just like never touched upon. Because, you know, as ugly as this whole thing is, ugly as the belts are, who would wear it better than Dominic Mysterio?
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Like, it's his... It would be such a character building thing for him. Like a nice, like,
that's really good
progressive thing where it's like, oh, it's the bloke who's that dim-witted valet. His idea of class and what he thinks is like nice and like it's just that belt and him just belong together, you know?
Yeah.
The cash. I mean, that's a pretty good idea.
That's very good. The cash-in tease is going to be hot, I think. Yeah. I think that crowd will be buzzing to see a potential cash-in. Does she outright do it? Does she try and cash in on Liv and lose? Does she appear like they could do a thing where they're both knocked out and Tiffany Stratton hands the briefcase over to the referee and the crowd are willing to pin Nia. Yeah. And then it looks like she's about to pin Nia and like Nia could sit up or something and Tiffany goes, yeah, I'm pinning Liv, but then Liv kicks out and she's blown her cash in. Out of like sheer fear, you know what I mean? The drama there would be quite hot. I think for the moment of it. At least.
You know what? I think that's a really good pitch because there's always something. I don't think the TV is very good. Okay, might have made that perfectly clear. There's often a moment on these PLEs where it's like, that's the business.
There's a business plays out on Sundays once a month.
That's the business, and it's like, I can't like it. Like the sheer flair of how they did the Damian Priest cash in.
Yeah,
like, do that and tell you.
That's one of my favorite moments of the whole time.
Do that and God of all time.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. If you count from when Punk rips the brace off, Priest celebrating on the stage, that 5 minutes of pure undiluted WWE
just like it's uncut, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uncut fed.
I think Drew's still coming down from the south of heaven.
Yeah.
He got that high for it. Like,
maybe they could do that. I think the idea of like, oh no, I was just going to pin her. But then they probably want the briefcase.
That's it. The briefcase in play is something they'd lean on, isn't it? So you think Liv wins?
Sorry, I don't care who wins. I like this idea though. They could have Nia down. Liv Morgan, who's been, you know, battered throughout because Nia's like the much bigger competitor. But she just uses that last bit of adrenaline and wherewithal to bring Nia to her knees.
Yep.
So they're both down. Tiffany can look at the briefcase, motion, and just before the referee takes the briefcase and rings the bell, that's when Nia sits up and is like, what are you doing? And she can be like, no, I was going to... So you can still further the story and build the tease at the same time.
They've done that similar stuff on TV without even having lived there.
I've seen SmackDown.
He's in our headspace. He's in our fed space. Yeah. That's a good pitch. I like that. I don't think we're going to get anything quite as silly in the men's one, but Christ almighty, they did it. Like, we weren't sure they could polish the turd. That turd is now a piece of turd carat gold.
That's why Cody's the man.
Good God.
That's why he's the
SmackDown last week between Cody and Gunther. It's technically for all the marbles because it's for another one of them big daft belts. It's surely got to be Gunther's win here because I just cannot see the story they've told where you have just out and out called Gunther this working champion who works smarter rather than harder, and Cody a guy that has run himself too hard in a desperate attempt to be somebody else. Like, you got to be this guy for your daughter, you've got to be this guy for John Cena because you're insecure.
Yeah.
If Cody then wins, isn't that inadvertent actual John Cena booking?
I know.
Like that. Like, I think if it's the different WWE, they can obviously book this. I'm not even saying protect Gunther. Gunther will be fine if he loses. It's Cody Rhodes. But the very specific story they've told, if then Cody just wins and on Monday is like, we did it, guys, what do you want to talk about? Yeah. That's the exact problem with John Cena's runs all those years ago, isn't it?
And even if they do that once, it still wouldn't be enough to even approach the apathy that half the crowd, not all of them, half the crowd felt towards John Cena. Here's something, right? We know that they seem to belong together in the ring, even before you recall that they actually have evidenced great chemistry. The 2023 Royal Rumble, they were going for Michael's take, and they approached it.
He's done it 2 years in a row, Cody, because he did it with Punk this year. Yeah, just sets up his big match.
That Rumble match within a match was great. So we know they've got great chemistry. Give them more time to build the story. It could be even better. Cody's just great at conveying pain. He's a good wincer. Not just a good seller, a good wincer. Which I know it's the same thing.
The handprint on the dream tattoo.
Yeah. Right. He could just target that, and then that could fire Cody up. I love that. Hasn't Cody all but said no interference? Yeah. Or they've basically said that. No interference during the match. Kevin Owens, he could be attacked by a mystery assailant, Cody. Basically, I don't know how they go about it, but they could have him attacked, beaten up before the bell.
Yes, I like that.
So Gunther just got a target, and he could be, resilient up to a point, Cody, but he's being attacked. It's the get out clause. What if Randy just gets the win over Kevin Owens? Like the banana skin win. And Kevin Owens, who's flips out. He's one of the best at this. Like, so many people can't do it. What if he just flips out, sees Cody, and just kills him?
Gets him by the bus again, like he did.
Yes,
with the cameras the last time, and I love that.
Just kills him. And then he can do Kevin versus Randy. I need it again, and then Kevin versus Cody.
Sidge, try this on for size. That exact set of circumstances, right? So you open with Orton and Kevin Owens. So they have the match. Orton gets the win. Owens is angrier than ever, that kind of thing. And then we see, but it's on camera this time. It's like Cody's being interviewed by his boss. He's like, it's a big match for me tonight. I'm very excited. And then Owens bursts in a shot, bang, right. It's like the most brutal thing you've ever seen. And like Triple H is like, get out of here, and he's pretty angry with Randy Orton for welcoming Owens back out with this suspension kind of thing, because he knew this would happen. And like Cody's hurt, and he's down, he's like, cradle his chest, because like Owens has just like trucked into him like that. Cody comes out, and they do a worked version of the bruised tit, and that's Gunther's target. And like they make him up or something like that. So every time Gunther's hitting, he's like, oh, no, like that. Like
on the subject of that, they should have done it. I could make the 5-star match better. It should be wrestling. You know what they should have done?
In the Cell, you mean this?
In the Cell. Yeah. 2022, Hell in a Cell, when he takes it off, he's wincing. It's like, oh my God, you should not be in that ring. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics had a great tweet, because the blood ban was very much in place then. So, you can bleed, just have it under your skin. That's what a bruise is. It was just like an excellent tweet. Excellent observation. I reckon Seth Rollins should have looked him up and down, laughed, and flicked him because he would have like, it's like if you can flick him with his finger and make that look like agony, what's a Hell in a Cell match going to do to him?
Yeah.
Anyway,
pressing, leave the little white fingerprints. Yeah.
Should have been a worker.
So
some say I am. We don't do bits.
We don't do bits. You got Gunther winning.
Yes.
It's weird, isn't it? The title is unimportant. The win's a pretty big one. Like it's
something to crow about.
It's a show of faith for Gunther. It's a sort of spiritual win for that title that still needs it. Like Raw's toy belt.
Saudi one, the toy belt on Raw. I would say so. There was a point in the mid-2000s where genuinely the World Heavyweight and the WWE were like just the same.
Yeah.
The same. We're not there yet.
No. And this is the sort of stuff ultimately. And Gunther's run, doesn't it? It helps you get there. So yeah, you think Gunther? I do too. Let us know what you think about that match.
You are Gunther.
Well, I wish, mate. I need to get on the treadmill a bit more to look like a shoot Gunther. We've kind of gone in the... he lost a lot of weight, but it's okay because I found
You found it.
Did you find weight? Well, don't worry. You're looking great. I don't care. But
do an outro. I can't do them.
I don't like him. I don't like him. Do you like him? I sure don't. Let us know on X or Twitter at WhatCulture WWE, where you can also find Michael Sidgwick at
Sidgwick.
You can find me at Michael Hamflett. We'll be back next week to review Crown Jewel. And until next time, we will see you soon.